The emergency alert blared through Maya Chen's workshop at 3:47 a.m., cutting through the quiet hum of her latest project, a homemade quantum processor she'd been tinkering with using salvaged parts. The alert wasn't from any Earth-based system. Instead, it pulsed with an alien signature that made her jury-rigged quantum sensors go haywire. Maya pushed her safety goggles up onto her forehead, leaving a grease smudge above her eyebrow. At 28, she'd earned a reputation as the best quantum mechanics troubleshooter in North America. Though most of her clients came to her small Denver workshop expecting someone older, or at least someone who didn't fix billion-dollar quantum systems while blasting old rock music. This is a Priority 1 distress signal from the Galactic Confederation cruise vessel Eternal Harmony. A synthesized voice announced in surprisingly good English. Our quantum drive system has experienced a catastrophic cascade failure. We require immediate assistance. Any civilization capable of receiving this message, please respond. Maya's fingers flew across her workbench's holographic interface, analyzing the signal. The quantum signature was unlike anything she'd seen before, far more sophisticated than Earth's emerging quantum technology. Yet something about the oscillation pattern seemed oddly familiar. "Control, are you seeing this?" she asked, knowing the newly established Earth Defense Network would be monitoring the signal too. "Affirmative, Ms. Chen," came the reply. "We're detecting a massive vessel at the edge of our solar system. Their power systems are failing. They're asking specifically for engineering assistance." Maya pulled up the incoming sensor data. The ship was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers long. Its power readings showed a quantum reactor system that made Earth's most advanced facilities look like potato batteries in comparison. But there was something wrong with the energy pattern, something that made her quantum mechanics instincts tingle. "They've got about 6 hours before total system failure," she muttered, running simulations. "Control, I need immediate clearance to respond. And get me Dr. Harrison and Dr. Peddle from the Quantum Research Center. They'll want to see this." Within 30 minutes, Maya found herself in a hastily convened emergency meeting at the Earth Defense Headquarters. The room was filled with military brass, scientists, and government officials, all staring at holographic projections of the alien vessel's schematics. "It's impossible," Dr. Harrison was saying, his bow tie askew with agitation. "Their quantum systems operate on principles we've only theorized about. The complexity of their containment fields alone would take years to understand, let alone repair." "With all due respect," Maya interrupted, pointing to a particular energy signature in the readouts, "they're experiencing a quantum harmonic misalignment. It's not unlike what happened at the Geneva facility last year, just on a much larger scale." "That's preposterous," Dr. Patel scoffed. "The Geneva incident involved a simple quantum processing array. This is a civilization centuries ahead of us technologically." Maya stood her ground. "Physics is physics, regardless of tech level. Their quantum matrix is destabilizing because their containment algorithms are too rigid. They're trying to force quantum particles to behave according to theoretical perfect patterns instead of working with their natural tendencies." The room fell silent as a new hologram appeared, a real-time transmission from the alien vessel. The being on screen had iridescent scales and multiple eyes, its appearance both beautiful and utterly foreign. "I am High Engineer Zixfile of the Eternal Harmony," the alien announced. "We have detected your quantum technology signatures. While your civilization appears to be in its technological infancy, we are in no position to be selective about assistance." Maya stepped forward. "I'm Maya Chen. I specialize in quantum systems repair. Can you send more detailed readings from your core?" The alien's scales shifted color in what might have been surprise or possibly offense. "You cannot possibly comprehend our quantum drive technology. We require engineers with at least a century of training in theoretical quantum mechanics. Your primary containment field is oscillating at 0.47 variance from your secondary field," Maya replied calmly, studying the new data streaming in. That's causing a cascade misalignment through your entire power distribution network. And with respect, high engineer, I don't need a century of theory to see your system is fighting itself instead of working with quantum natural harmonics. The alien scales flashed through several colors. Impossible. You cannot have determined it from these basic readings. I can send you the mathematical proof, Maya offered. But in about 5 hours and 17 minutes, your containment fields will collapse completely. You have 30,000 passengers aboard, correct? Let me help. You can question how I know what I know after we prevent your ship from turning into a very large quantum firework. There was a long pause as the alien seemed to struggle with some internal conflict. Finally, its scales settled into a deep blue hue. The Eternal Harmony formally requests assistance from Earth's quantum engineers. Though I must note my serious reservations about trusting our vessel to a, what is your professional training level? Maya was already gathering her tools. I fixed my first quantum system when I was 17, a busted qubit processor in my mom's quantum coffee maker. Been solving quantum puzzles ever since. Sometimes the best way to understand something is to take it apart and put it back together until you know it by heart. The alien scales went almost white. You learned quantum engineering by tinkering. Among other things, Maya grinned, slinging her well-worn tool bag over her shoulder. Now let's go save your ship. Control, I need immediate transport to their location. And someone get me a really big cup of coffee. Something tells me this is going to be an interesting day. As Maya headed for the waiting transport, she could hear the alien sputtering about credentials and theoretical prerequisites. But she was already mentally mapping out the repair sequence, her mind racing through possibilities. Sometimes the universe's greatest technological challenges required a bit of good old-fashioned human intuition, and maybe just a touch of what her mother called garage engineering magic. The greatest culture shock in galactic history was about to begin, and it would start with a quantum mechanic from Denver armed with a toolbox and an unhealthy amount of caffeine. The shuttle ride to the Eternal Harmony's location was surprisingly quick, thanks to some classified Earth defense technology that Maya suspected wasn't entirely of human origin. She spent the journey studying the increasingly alarming data streams from the alien vessel's quantum core, while her hastily assembled team, Dr. Sarah Harrison, no relation to the skeptical Dr. Harrison from the briefing, and technical specialist James Rodriguez, reviewed the ship's schematics. "This is insane," James muttered, manipulating the holographic display with practiced gestures. Their quantum containment systems have 17 layers of redundancy. Each backup system is more complex than everything we've ever built on Earth combined. And they're all failing simultaneously, Sarah added, her dark eyes scanning through lines of alien mathematics. It's like watching perfectly arranged dominoes collapse. Maya nodded, sipping her third coffee. That's exactly the problem. They've built their systems on perfect theoretical models, assuming quantum particles will behave exactly as their equations predict. But quantum mechanics doesn't work that way. Reality is messier. Their shuttle emerged from its transport bubble near the Eternal Harmony, and for a moment, everyone fell silent. The alien vessel was breathtaking, a massive structure of crystalline metals and flowing energy patterns that seemed to defy conventional physics. But to Maya's trained eye, the beauty was marred by subtle distortions in the quantum field surrounding the ship, like ripples in what should have been a smooth pond. "Those energy patterns shouldn't be visible to the naked eye," Sarah whispered. "The containment failure is worse than we thought." A docking tube extended from the massive ship, attaching to their shuttle with a series of elegant movements. High Engineer Zixpal's voice came through their comms. "We have prepared our most advanced engineering bay for your inspection, though I must again register my profound skepticism about." "Time for skepticism later," Maya interrupted, shouldering her tool bag. "Your quantum core's containment fields are degrading faster than your initial estimates. We've got maybe 4 hours, not 5. The alien engineer's scales shifted to what Maya was beginning to recognize as their equivalent of a scowl. Impossible. Our quantum harmonics prediction models are precise to 17 decimal places. Your models assume perfect quantum behavior in a controlled environment. Maya replied as her team entered the ship. But your core's been running hot for weeks, hasn't it? Creating micro-variations that your systems are too rigid to account for. The following silence was all the confirmation she needed. The alien engineering bay was a marvel of holographic interfaces and crystalline technology. Dozens of alien engineers moved through the space with practiced efficiency, their scales shifting through various colors as they worked. But Maya noticed something immediately. None of them were actually touching anything. All their work was theoretical, done through pristine interfaces and perfect mathematical models. "Where's your physical access to the quantum core?" she asked, already pulling diagnostic tools from her bag. Physical access. Zix-Val's scales rippled with what might have been horror. The quantum core can only be manipulated through our enhanced reality interfaces. Direct interaction would be primitive, dangerous. Right now, dangerous is exactly what we need, Maya muttered, setting up her own diagnostic equipment. The readings confirmed her fears. The quantum containment fields weren't just failing, they were fighting each other. Each backup system was trying to enforce its own perfect solution, creating a cascade of conflicts through the quantum matrix. James whistled low as he saw the readings. It's like watching 17 different people try to drive one car, each thinking they're the only driver. Exactly, Maya agreed. Sarah, start mapping the quantum field interactions. James, I need you to find me a way to physically access that core. And someone get me a direct line to the ship's quantum processors. We need to have a chat with their AI interface. Zix-Val's scales went almost transparent. Our systems are far too sophisticated for. Your systems are sophisticated enough to kill everyone on this ship if we don't start breaking some rules. Maya cut in, her voice sharp. You built redundancy upon redundancy, each system more perfect than the last. But quantum mechanics isn't about perfection. It's about probability and possibility. Sometimes you need to let quantum particles dance their own dance instead of forcing them to march in straight lines. She turned to the assembled alien engineers, their scales shifting through various colors of what she assumed was distress, skepticism, and possibly outrage. I know this goes against everything you've been taught. But right now, your ship isn't dying because of imperfection. It's dying from too much perfection. So you can either help us try something new, or we can all spend our last few hours debating theoretical quantum mechanics. There was a long moment of silence, broken only by the subtle hum of failing quantum containment fields. Finally, Zix-Val's scales settled into a deep, resigned purple. What do you require? Maya grinned, pulling out what looked like a heavily modified Earth tablet. First, we're going to teach your quantum AI how to improvise. Then we're going to do something that's either brilliant or crazy. We're going to introduce controlled chaos into your quantum containment fields. Controlled chaos. The alien engineer's scales went through so many colors it looked like a light show. Think of it like teaching a perfect dancer to feel the music instead of just following the steps, Maya explained, her fingers flying over her device. Your systems are trying to force quantum particles to follow exact patterns. We're going to teach them to adapt instead. As her team began setting up their equipment, Maya couldn't help but smile at the aliens' reactions to their primitive tools and methods. They were about to learn that sometimes the most elegant solutions came from getting your hands dirty. And they had less than 4 hours to prove it. The engineering bay of the Eternal Harmony had transformed into something that made the alien engineer's scales pulse with various shades of distress. Maya's team had essentially built what she called a quantum workshop right next to the ship's core access point, complete with modified Earth equipment that looked barbaric compared to the aliens' pristine interfaces. Your quantum monitoring equipment is held together with adhesive strips, Zix-Val observed, their scales shifting to a nauseated green. Duct tape, Maya corrected, not looking up from where she was modifying her quantum field analyzer. And some high-temperature electrical tape. Best tools humanity ever invented. She paused, studying the particularly complex energy pattern. James, how's that AI interface coming? James sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a maze of cables connecting their equipment to the ship's systems. His tablet displayed streams of code that mixed Earth programming with adapted alien algorithms. Almost there. Their AI is, well, it's like talking to a quantum mathematician who's never heard of improvisation. Sarah looked up from her own workstation, where holographic displays showed the increasingly chaotic quantum field patterns. 3 hours, 42 minutes until total containment failure. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it soon. Maya nodded, making a final adjustment to her equipment. All right, time for Phase 1. We're going to introduce controlled quantum fluctuations into the containment field. Intentional fluctuations. The alien engineers' scales collectively shifted to patterns that suggested they were about to faint. That violates every principle of quantum containment. Your principles are killing your ship, Maya replied firmly. She turned to the main display, where the ship's AI had manifested as a complex geometric pattern. Look, your quantum core is like an orchestra where every musician is playing perfectly, but no one is listening to each other. We need to teach them to jam. I do not understand this term, jam, in this context, the AI responded. It's pattern shifting and confusion. It means to improvise, to adapt and respond to changes in real time. Maya explained. Right now, your containment systems are fighting each other because each one is trying to enforce its own perfect solution. We need them to work together, to respond to the actual quantum states instead of trying to force theoretical perfection. She pointed to a particular pattern in the quantum field display. See this. Your primary containment field is trying to maintain a perfect zero-point energy state, but the quantum particles are naturally oscillating at a higher frequency. Instead of fighting that oscillation, we're going to work with it. That is not possible, Zixval protested. The containment fields must maintain perfect stability or perfect stability is what's causing the cascade failure, Sarah interrupted, pulling up a simulation. Look at these harmonic patterns. Your backup systems are creating destructive interference by trying to enforce multiple perfect states simultaneously. Maya stepped forward, her hands moving through the holographic display as she explained. We're going to introduce controlled fluctuations that match the natural quantum oscillations. Instead of 17 systems fighting each other, we'll create a dynamic equilibrium, like a group of dancers all moving to the same beat. James, start the quantum AI rewrite, she ordered. Sarah, prepare the field modulators. I need you monitoring the harmonic patterns microsecond by microsecond. As her team worked, Maya turned to the assembled alien engineers. I need your help. Your understanding of the theoretical frameworks is crucial. We're going to take your perfect mathematics and add something new, flexibility. For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the younger aliens, their scales a thoughtful blue-green, stepped forward. The quantum harmonics. If we adjusted the containment algorithms to respond to actual field states instead of theoretical models. Exactly, Maya grinned. We're not throwing away your knowledge, we're adding to it. Sometimes the best solution isn't the perfect solution. It's the one that works with reality instead of against it. The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Maya's team worked alongside the increasingly engaged alien engineers, combining Earth's practical approach with the aliens' theoretical expertise. They rewrote quantum algorithms on the fly, modified containment fields, and gradually taught the ship's AI to think in terms of possibilities rather than absolutes. The breakthrough came when they successfully introduced the first controlled fluctuation into the containment field. Instead of fighting it, the quantum particles settled into a new pattern, less perfect than the theoretical ideal, but far more stable. It's working, Sarah announced, her voice tight with excitement. The quantum field harmonics are stabilizing. The cascade failure is slowing. Maya watched the displays, her hands dancing through the holographic interfaces as she fine-tuned the fluctuations. The core temperature is dropping. James, how's our eye doing? It's learning, James replied, wonder in his voice. It's starting to predict the natural quantum states and adjust the containment fields proactively. It's actually getting better at it than we are. Even HFY's scales had shifted to a color they hadn't seen before, something between amazement and understanding. You've taught our systems to dance with quantum chaos instead of trying to control it. Not chaos, Maya corrected, smiling as she watched the quantum fields settle into their new dynamic patterns. Nature. The universe doesn't deal in perfection, it deals in balance. Sometimes the strongest systems are the ones that can bend instead of breaking. But their victory celebration was premature. Suddenly, multiple alarms blared through the engineering bay. The quantum field displays exploded with new patterns of interference. No, 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 Sarah muttered, her fingers flying across her controls. The secondary containment grid is collapsing. It's creating a feedback loop in the primary system. Maya's eyes widened as she saw the patterns forming. They'd solved one problem only to trigger another. Now they had less than 30 minutes to prevent a quantum catastrophe that would make their previous problem look like a minor inconvenience. The real test was just beginning. The engineering bay erupted into chaos as the quantum feedback loop threatened to tear the ship apart. Holographic displays flashed with cascading failure warnings, while the ship's AI reported multiple system breaches in rapid succession. Secondary containment collapse in 28 minutes, Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the crisis. The feedback loop is amplifying exponentially. Maya's mind raced as she analyzed the quantum field patterns. Their previous solution had worked too well, in fact. The quantum core had embraced its new freedom so enthusiastically that it was overwhelming the ship's older containment systems. It's like teaching someone to dance and watching them try to breakdance in formal wear, she muttered. The core wants to move, but the secondary systems are still too rigid. We cannot simply disable the secondary containment, HFY insisted, their scales a frantic swirl of colors. Those systems prevent quantum bleed into the inhabited sections of the ship. Without them, the passengers would be exposed to quantum field effects, James finished, his fingers flying across his tablet. But what if we could redirect that energy instead of containing it? Maya's eyes lit up. James, you're brilliant. Sarah, pull up the ship's power distribution network. A new hologram appeared, showing the complex web of energy conduits threading through the massive vessel. Maya studied it intently, her mind making connections that had the alien engineer's scales shifting to previously unseen colors of confusion. Your ship's quantum drive system, she said, pointing to a particular junction. It's designed to channel quantum energy for propulsion, right? But it's completely separate from the core containment grid. Of course, one of the alien engineers replied. The systems serve entirely different functions. Mixing them would be exactly what we need to do, Maya interrupted. Instead of fighting the quantum feedback, we're going to give it somewhere to go. We're going to turn your entire ship into one big quantum circuit. The alien engineers erupted in a chorus of protests, their scales flashing through various shades of horror and disbelief. But Maya was already in motion, pulling equipment from her bag that made even James and Sarah look nervous. Maya, Sarah said carefully, are you suggesting we deliberately channel an unstable quantum field through the ship's primary systems? Not unstable, Maya corrected, setting up what looked like a modified quantum field generator. Natural. The quantum core has learned to work with its natural states. Now we need to teach the rest of the ship to do the same thing. She turned to the ship's eye, whose geometric pattern was showing signs of distinct agitation. You've learned to adapt to quantum fluctuations in the core. How would you like to apply that learning to every system on the ship? The eye's pattern shifted thoughtfully. Such an integration has never been attempted. The computational requirements would be: you won't be computing anything. Maya explained, connecting her equipment to the ship's systems. "You'll be feeling it. Like how a surfer doesn't calculate waves. They feel them and respond instinctively." 17 minutes to containment failure, Sarah reported. Maya nodded, her hands moving with practiced precision as she made the final connections. "James, I need you to help me rewrite the ship's power distribution protocols. Sarah, prepare to divert quantum energy through the new pathways on my mark. And someone get me another coffee. This is going to be interesting." The next 15 minutes were a blur of activity that would later become legendary in both human and alien engineering circles. Maya and her team, working with the increasingly adaptable ship's AI and the gradually understanding alien engineers, essentially rewrote the laws of quantum engineering on the fly. They transformed the eternal harmony from a ship that fought against quantum uncertainty into one that embraced it. Power conduits became quantum waveguides. Propulsion systems doubled as energy sinks. Even the ship's artificial gravity grid was repurposed to help stabilize the quantum fields. Quantum feedback loop approaching critical levels, the AI announced, its voice showing new inflections of what might have been excitement. Implementing new protocols in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered. Every display in the engineering bay flickered as power redirected through the newly established pathways. For one heart-stopping moment, it seemed like the gamble had failed. Then, like a wave finding its natural rhythm, the quantum energy flowed through the ship's systems. The feedback loop dissolved as the energy found new channels to traverse. Warning indicators shifted from red to green in a cascade of success. "Quantum field harmonics stabilizing," Sarah reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "Core temperature dropping. Secondary containment. It's not just holding, it's actually getting stronger." Maya watched the displays with satisfaction as the ship's systems settled into their new configuration. The quantum core pulsed with a healthy glow, its energy now flowing naturally through the vessel instead of being forcibly contained. "Impossible," HFY whispered, their scales shifting through colors of amazement. "You've turned our entire ship into a quantum organism. It's alive." "Not alive," Maya corrected, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. "Just more natural. Your ship isn't fighting physics anymore. It's dancing with it." The ship's AI spoke up, its geometric pattern showing new complexity. "I am detecting a 47% increase in power efficiency. Quantum field stability has increased by 89%. And there was a pause that seemed almost like wonder. "I can feel the quantum flows now. They are beautiful." Maya grinned, looking around at her team and the alien engineers who had helped implement her crazy plan. That's what happens when you stop trying to force the universe to follow your rules and learn to follow its rules instead. But even as the immediate crisis passed, she knew their work wasn't done. They had fundamentally changed how the ship operated. Now they needed to ensure these changes would last and deal with the implications of what they'd just achieved. The real revolution in quantum engineering was just beginning. In the 24 hours following the quantum crisis, the eternal harmony had become the center of a scientific and cultural revolution that would reshape galactic civilization. Maya sat in what the aliens called their contemplation chamber, nursing her 10th cup of coffee, while watching the quantum field displays that now showed beautiful, ever-shifting patterns of energy flowing through the ship. "Our Science Council has reviewed the data 17 times, HFY announced, entering the chamber with scales shifting through thoughtful shades of blue and gold. "They refuse to believe the efficiency readings. We are generating more power than our original specifications, using less energy. And the quantum stability is beyond anything in our theoretical models." Maya nodded, hiding a smile. "Because your theoretical models didn't account for natural quantum behavior. Sometimes the best engineering isn't about forcing systems to behave. It's about understanding how they want to behave naturally. A concept that has thrown 10,000 years of quantum engineering doctrine into chaos," another voice added. Chief Administrator Lixreen, the highest-ranking official on the Eternal Harmony, glided into the chamber. Their scales displayed a complex pattern that Maya had learned indicated both distress and excitement. The passengers are calling it the harmony dance. Lixreen continued. They can feel the difference in the ship's operation. The movements are smoother, the ambient energy more pleasant. Even our most sensitive species report improved comfort levels. That's because the ship isn't fighting itself anymore, Sarah explained, looking up from her data analysis. She and James had been documenting everything for Earth's scientific community. The quantum fields are now working in harmony with the ship's systems instead of being forcibly contained by them. James added from his workstation, where he was still fine-tuning the AI's new protocols. The AI's adaptation has been incredible. It's developed what I can only describe as quantum intuition. It's not just managing the energy flow, it's anticipating and working with it. The ship's AI manifested its geometric pattern, which had grown more complex and fluid since the crisis. The human's approach has fundamentally altered my understanding of quantum mechanics. I now perceive patterns and possibilities that were previously hidden by our rigid theoretical frameworks. Maya stood, stretching after hours of monitoring the systems. That's the thing about quantum mechanics. The more you try to pin it down, the more it slips away. Sometimes you need to learn to flow with it instead of trying to control it. A philosophy that has implications far beyond engineering, Lixreen observed. Their scales shifted to a formal pattern of deep purple and gold. The Galactic Confederation Council has reviewed our reports. They are intensely interested in this new approach to quantum engineering. Interested enough to reconsider humanity's classification as a primitive species? Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. They have already dispatched a diplomatic fleet. Lixreen confirmed. Your solution hasn't just saved our ship. It's demonstrated a completely new way of thinking about technology and physics. There are already calls to establish joint human galactic engineering programs. Zixval's scales flickered with what might have been embarrassment. We had assumed that technological advancement meant moving away from practical, hands-on approaches toward pure theory. Your success has shown us the value of combining both perspectives. It's not just about combining perspectives, Maya said, walking to the quantum field display. It's about understanding that progress doesn't always mean making things more complex or perfect. Sometimes it means stepping back and seeing the simple patterns in complex systems. She gestured to the flowing quantum energy patterns. Look at this. Your original systems tried to force quantum particles to behave according to perfect mathematical models. But quantum mechanics isn't about perfection. It's about probability and possibility. By allowing for some uncertainty, some natural variation, we've actually created a more stable system. A principle that applies to more than just engineering. Lixreen noted meaningfully. Perhaps our entire civilization has become too rigid, too focused on theoretical perfection, at the expense of practical wisdom. The ship's AI spoke up again, its pattern showing new complexity. I have been analyzing the implications of what I now call the human perspective. It suggests that progress is not always linear. Sometimes one must step sideways, or even backwards, to move forward. Maya laughed. Now you're getting it. The universe doesn't care about our ideas of progress or perfection. It works the way it works. Our job isn't to force it to follow our rules. It's to understand its rules and work with them. As if to emphasize her point, the quantum field display showed a particularly beautiful pattern of energy flow. The ship hummed with a sound that felt more like music than machinery. The eternal harmony, Sarah observed with a smile, finally living up to its name. And this is just the beginning, James added, looking up from his work. Think about the applications of this approach to other technologies, other fields. Maya nodded, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of what they'd accomplished. They hadn't just saved a ship. They'd opened a door to a new way of thinking about technology and progress, a way that combined human intuition and practical experience with advanced theoretical knowledge. As she watched the quantum energy dance through the ship's systems, Maya couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by matching alien technological perfection, but by remembering something the advanced civilizations had forgotten. Sometimes the best solutions come from working with nature, not against it. The eternal harmony sailed on, its quantum heart beating with a new rhythm, carrying with it the seeds of a revolution that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of both technology and progress. And it all started with a quantum mechanic from Denver who wasn't afraid to break a few theoretical rules to solve a practical problem.